Good morning, everyone. Yesterday, among a certain set of geeks in this world, it was celebrated as National Pi Day. And it's not pi as in apple pie, but it's pi as in 3.1418, for those of you with the ears to hear. That is the fruit of reasoning, recognizing something like this obscure number, which looks odd, has fundamental consequences in the way the universe is built. That comes right out of here. To capture this extraordinary process, we use words like objectivity, cold logic. You have to wonder why logic is cold. Why isn't there warmth to it? I'll come to that in a moment. Cold logic. We say things like data-driven, empiricism, and so on and so forth. We do live in the age of reason. It wasn't always this way, and I mean it in both good ways and bad ways. It wasn't that long ago, perhaps in the West, the age of reason started right around 1500s or so. Until then, people lived and thought and related to nature differently. They were able to do things, they were able to establish their mastery over nature, just like we do today, but they thought about it differently. But we are taught from childhood to be guided by reason. And the defining quotes of our civilization of the last 400 years are things like knowledge is power. And it's kind of, and it does happen to be true to a certain extent, except it isn't. Knowledge could also be, it can sap your power. Hence the term blissful ignorance. You have to wonder how knowledge is power and blissful ignorance coexist. The way we normally think about it is blissful ignorance because the poor sod has no idea what's coming to him. If he only knew, we kind of think of it derogatively. But then at one point in the autobiography of a yogi, when speaking about Master Mahashaya, Yogananda says that it was his simple, uncomplicated devotion that appealed, that drew Divine Mother to him. So ignorance is bliss in another very fundamental sense. We also, another famous quote which comes to us all the way from the Greeks, from Aristotle, it says, man is a rational animal. In other words, if animals were rational, if dogs had the rationality to not always think about only food, they would probably build a highway. That's kind of the cold logic there. Man is a rational animal. And the most defining aspect of that is captured by I think, therefore I am, that I am no more than the sum of my cold, logical, data-driven, objective, empirical thoughts. And this has given us a lot of great things, anything from our legal system, which probably, despite all its flaws, is about as democratic and recognizes the individual as it has ever been in known history, or the great architecture that we have, and of course science. We now actually know just by reasoning alone what the sun is made up of. It's so impossibly far, but we know what it's made up of. And all of this comes to us from reasoning, or does it? The answer is yes and no. It does come. Reasoning, of course, is important. Otherwise, the slippery slope towards blind, unquestioning faith, affirming our basest instincts, it's not that far away. Reasoning is what keeps us grounded along the proper path in this world of duality. There is no doubt about that. But that's the truth, but not the whole truth. Even in the outer world. Let me give you a couple of examples. We always talk about Einstein in this case, and so will I. He said something that was interesting. He said his best ideas came to him as images and feeling. That's what reason, I told you cold logic, and I said I'll come back to it. Why logic is cold is because reason explicitly denies feeling. And if you are a scientist, you'll realize that it's drilled into you. Even the science of psychology takes, there are things like the wellness index, quality of life index. It takes your feelings and makes it reasonable, ability to reason on it. And there's a bunch of these, and often you get a paper published if you come up with a new index for this or that. So reason explicitly denies feeling, but yet arguably the greatest scientist that we've heard of said the best ideas came to him as images and feeling. Okay, fine. Einstein was an outlier. We kind of know privately in this room that he was a spiritual man. So let's pick someone else. How about Warren Buffett? I'm sure he's spiritual, but what he is in the business of picking stocks, about as outward as it can be. And they deal with spreadsheets, balance sheets and all that kind of stuff. And then here's what he said. He said that he will analyze a stock really completely, but he'll wait for a feeling of conviction to come. I'm not making this up. And then once that feeling of conviction comes, he'll either invest in it or not, regardless of what reasoning says. There's a very famous Indian mathematician named Ramanujan. And he came up with formulas that were so bewildering, that was so out of the box, that when they first saw it, mathematicians asked, how did he even think that this could be a problem, that he could solve it? It was so way out there. And it took a full 80 or 90 years for people to start recognizing that these are very, very deep, meaning they were really, he was tapping into something. And then when they asked him, how did you come up with this? You know what he said? He was unschooled in any formalism. He didn't know that what he was about to say would land like whatever lands very badly, like a bag of rocks, I think. So he said, there is a goddess in my village, her name is Namagiri. He said, she comes to me in my dreams and gives me these mathematical theorems. Okay, this is almost a direct quote. He probably said it in Tamil, it was his native language. But he felt those theorems. Warren Buffett felt those stocks. Steve Jobs felt the right design. There was, back in the day, right around 2005, when people wanted phones to do more than just call people and check your email and take photos and so on. The hot idea back in the day, and many of you that are old enough to recollect those distant times, you'd realize that we had a thing called a stylus. We'd whip it out and then say tap, tap, tap. And that was the hottest idea. Very famously, he went up there, he took the iPhone, this was when it was first released, and he said, who needs a stylus? Because you'll have to remove it, you have to put it back, you have to lose it, you have to buy a new one. We all come built in with a stylus. It's called your finger. And then, now it seems obvious, but back then, I remember at the time, because I was in the field, it's like, what is he talking about? People have tried this doesn't work. But he'd seen the future. So we all have these two abilities. The ability to break things down, look at something and say it's made of this, 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 and this, and then they relate in these complicated ways, and if I move those parts around, then something else will happen. We have that ability to break it down, and our tools are our senses, what we see, and logic, this amazing ability to infer. If there is a fire out there, then there should be, if there is smoke out there, then there should be fire. This is the example given. And some people have it developed less than other people. Not that they have it less, they just have worked with it less. Everybody has it to the same extent. But we also have the ability to see the whole, see the entire thing. If you've ever had a conviction in your mind that says, my long lost friend, I'm going to see that person today. Or if you've had a conviction that, oh my God, something is wrong with so-and-so, let me call and find out what is going on. If you had those kinds of things, you're dealing with this other faculty. Those things you feel. There is no reasoning breadcrumbs that you can follow. I got here to there using this, this, and this. You just feel it, it's there, and you can't deny the compulsion of that feeling. You just know. The sudden complete ability to know is called intuition. All of us have both. We happen to live in the age of reason where this has been sidelined. Intuition. This is intuition, by the way. This is reason. For me, this is left and right brain. So we also have this. We have this, but this has been sidelined. The ability to know the whole thing. Now, this is all fine. This is a really fun romp through some thinking space. It's good to think about this and then go have some coffee and go on with the business of the day. But there are some deep implications of ignoring your feeling or your ability to intuit. I had an experience around 22 years ago, something like that. At the time, I was relatively young, and I had just been promoted to a position of leadership in the company I worked for in Microsoft. And there was that really strong sense of achievement and, oh my God, I got recognized, and you look around the others and say, I know they are good, but I think I'm better. All of those little pleasurable things that the ego kind of lets you go through. And we used to have these things called all hands meeting. A larger group, everybody got together. And in that meeting, my manager, whom I had a lot of respect for, she came up and said, you know, I'm relying on 3 leaders to help us achieve this great goal. And she said what the goal was. We were all very excited. And she said the 3 leaders, and I wasn't one of them. And then, because I had a lot of respect for her, I was, well, let me think about this. Why did she leave me out? Because it was the 4 of us, not the 3 of them. And so I kept thinking, I reasoned about it, I applied logic, and then pretty soon I worked myself into a froth of anger. It's like, no, this is not right. I have to be acknowledged. In fact, according to the best logic that I could apply, I believe I was a little better than all of them. And these were all real things. And it really got me into anger. And all of these seemed very, I felt like I was doing exactly the right thing. I felt like I wasn't agitated or anything. It's like very coldly, my God, this is not the right job for me. All of this happened in the course of an hour. Now, thank God, later in that day, here, no, it wasn't here, it was in our Roosevelt temple back then. I had to teach a class on contentment. It was step 5 of Raja Yoga. And so it always had to cross the bridge. I had about 45 minutes of time. And then I said, well, I can't teach a class on contentment, being so discontent with my lot in life at this point. So during that time, I meditated. I didn't close my eyes, but I meditated. I did some pranayamas. And for whatever grace of God or guru that it was, I had a very deep meditation. I was able to go inward. And then something interesting happened when those feelings calmed down. This was a feeling that I got that the other 3 were just as critical, because that was what was tripping me up. I thought I was better. I saw them as just as critical, and that took the edge of my feelings, my anger right away. And I also realized that without them, I wouldn't be able to do much. Whatever I thought I was good at was because we all worked together. I know this sounds a little bit pat and so on, but when that comes as a feeling, is actually very, very powerful. And I also realized that I had been acknowledged amply in the past quite a bit, so that was perhaps why my manager acknowledged these other people. All of these were obscured because reasoning couldn't deal with it. Do you see what I'm saying? So even when dealing with the outer world, just relying on reason really, as it said in the reading today, clarity comes with direct soul perception. If you excessive dependence on reason creates confusion. So this is still not the spiritual path, but I just wanted to say whether it's crisis management or success at work or any of the outer activities, we have to balance both. Both are equally important because one without the other is incomplete. Later on in deeper stages of meditation, reason is guided by a calm feelings, and then that reason is able to transition from knowledge into wisdom. So it's not so much knowledge is power, that wisdom is power, but that can only come when it's combined with calm feelings. So today's Gita quote actually captures this very finely. It says, Shruti vipratipannaha yadate sthasyati nischala samadha vachala buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi. Shruti vipratipannaha yadate sthasyati nischala samadha vachala buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi. Now it means when your brain is completely disturbed, when your intellect is confused by the diversity of teachings, when that confused intellect becomes steadfast in the ecstasy of deep meditation, then you will achieve final union with God. It's now this is talking about when you read the scriptures and you get confused, go into the ecstasy of meditation, and then in those calm feelings, you'll see the presence of God, direct perception. But it also applies at all other levels, like I just talked about. When you're confused and angry about some work situation, go into the calm feelings and ask what is trying to happen here. And then the right answer will come. So reason and intuition, they have to go hand in hand. Lahiri Mahashaya, the param guru, guru's guru of Paramhansa Yogananda, and Yogananda is, his teachings is what we follow here at Ananda. He said something, and I want to read this for you in its entirety, and listen carefully, because it takes everything that I have said and elevates it to a very deep spiritual level. The great Guru taught his disciples to avoid theoretical discussion of scriptures. He only is wise who devotes himself to realizing, not reading only, the ancient revelations. Solve all your problems through meditation. Exchange unprofitable religious speculations for actual God contact. Clear your mind of dogmatic theological debris. Let in the fresh, healing waters of direct perception. I'll pause there and interject with something Yogananda said. Intuition is the soul's power to know God. And so direct perception means intuition. Let me go back to Lahiri's statement. Clear your mind of dogmatic theological debris. Let in the fresh healing waters of direct perception. Attune yourself to the active inner guidance. The divine voice has the answer to every dilemma of life. Though man's ingenuity for getting himself into trouble appears to be endless, the infinite succor is no less resourceful. So, as much as we live in the age of reason, and perhaps even more because we are bombarded by the admonitions to be reasonable and to be objective and to be coldly logical and so on, it is equally important to develop this other aspect. We all have it, this other aspect which is intuition. So how do you develop this? And there's many, many, many things that Yogananda and Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda. Yogananda and Swamiji have given us, but I just wanted to dwell on one simple thing that we can do every day. The most important thing is this, that we cultivating the habit of solving all problems through meditation. And what I mean by that is, say you have 10 tasks today, and say one of your tasks is to prepare for a talk on reason versus intuition. You could go and start preparing for it. That would be the logical, objective thing to do. But then try instead, say, let me first meditate, go into that state of calm feeling so that I can be guided by something higher. And if you did that, this is a bit of a transition, okay? Because it's not logical, you see. It's a bit of a transition. But if you discipline yourself to do that, no matter what task or what you have in front of you or what problem you're facing, you will see that you will solve it better, or you will solve it in the right way, that it will come to you. In fact, Yogananda said that meditate first and enter the state of utter calmness. This is for problem solving. Don't think of your problem when you're doing this. And then, he said, concentrate simultaneously on your spiritual eye and your heart and ask God to direct your intuition so you will know what to do. I know this sounds illogical, but it really, I can speak from a person that was dragged into this modality, kicking and screaming, because it made no sense. But I can tell you that it really is one of the most powerful tools that you will have no matter what the problem is. But intuition is a use it or lose it thing. So when you do more of this, you will learn to recognize it. It will start coming to you. And then you will begin to live more and more by intuition. And at some point, we have to do that because God perception is done in the intuitive space. There is really, as we talked about, I did 2 weeks ago, that thinking alone cannot give us understanding of the truth. The second one is cultivate the habit of listening. And this comes in multiple ways. Of course, one of the ways that life forces us to listen is when somebody points out something wrong that we did. Cultivate the habit of listening. That's a deep spiritual practice. Say, yes, I was wrong. Then if we did it that way, then we'll get the sense of what it feels to have the ego step aside. And then suddenly because ego is that which contracts our consciousness, we'll suddenly see something more. But an even more powerful way, effective way of cultivating the habit of listening is when you meditate, and I'm speaking to those that have a regular habit of meditation. If you don't, you should. When you meditate, really spend the time sitting in silence, especially when you feel that sense of peace, that sense of calmness. When you get it, don't let it go because you're tossing away a gift from God. Sit there. Yeah. The more we develop the habit of saying that sense of peace or calmness is more precious than almost anything I have to do or acquire today, then it kind of gets us there very quickly. So that's very important to do. And the third one, I have to be practical. I know these were all transcendental things, but I have to be practical too, is intuition and common sense kind of, they balance each other out. Yogananda, there's a beautiful article that Paramahansa Yogananda wrote, which was republished, I believe, in the Crystal Clarity magazine somewhere around 2015, if you go search for it. It's about intuition. And then he talks about there are 3 types of intuition. One is crude intuition, the other is half intuition, and then there is intuition. So we all have the crude intuition that comes built in. And when we begin to work with intuition, that feeling that you get, this is the right answer, this is what I got to do, hold it up to the light of common sense. Shine the light of common sense on it and see if it makes sense. Because if it doesn't stand the test of our experience and practicality, then chances are it may not be right. But the reverse is also true, and this is something you have to find your way through it, is if your brain understands something but your heart rejects it, especially when the heart is calm, then trust your heart. So when the feelings are calm and there is something that comes and the brain says, no, it makes no sense, it's illogical, then learn to trust your heart. And then over time you will figure out your way through what is intuition and what isn't. So Einstein said that, there's an actual quote from him, it's an intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. Why? Because intuition is the soul's power of knowing God. Om Shanti.
From Whispers from Eternity, tune us that we may hear thy voice. Volumes of thy Savior voice resound through the loudspeaker of every loving heart. The voice of thy wisdom roams through the ether of space, seeking everywhere hearts that are tuned to ecstasy. Sadly, thy warning sermons pass unheard by souls deafened with the static of sense pleasures. O divine broadcaster, tune our souls, long distracted by the static of our indifference. Fine-tune us with a delicate touch of soul perception. Grant us the privilege of hearing thy magic melodies in the ecstasy of divine awakening.